Picture this. You walk into work one morning and the internet is just gone. Not for an hour, not even for a day, but for 6 straight weeks. Now this isn't a hypothetical. It actually happened to a US government office. A computer virus forced them to shut down their entire network. No email, no shared drives, nothing. Sounds like a total nightmare, right?
But here is where the story gets really wild. The head of the office noticed something absolutely incredible. Without that constant flood of email, he was actually getting better at his job. He was having longer, more meaningful meetings in person, and he was getting a much deeper handle on his work. This is a shocking story, and it gets right to the heart of a massive problem with the way we all work today.
Dear book lovers, what if you could finish an entire book in just minutes? Welcome to another insight-packed book summary episode of Summeropedia. We are here to bring you more titles in less time. In this episode, we are going to explore the important and highly practical lessons from the book A World Without Email by Cal Newport. And let me tell you, this book is for literally anyone who feels like their inbox is their real boss, whether you're a leader, an entrepreneur, or just trying to reclaim your focus and sanity.
You know that feeling? That constant, low-level anxiety that comes from an inbox that never stops filling up and Slack notifications that never end? Well, Cal Newport actually gives it a name. He argues that this way of working, the way we've all just accepted as normal, is actually a disease that's crippling our ability to get things done. And this, right here, is the villain of our story, the hyperactive hive mind. It's this unspoken expectation that you need to be available all the time, ready to fire off a quick reply to any message whenever it comes in. It feels productive, right? Because there's so much activity, so much back and forth. But as Newport shows us, it's actually a deeply, deeply flawed way to do any kind of meaningful work.
And the human cost? Well, it's severe. Newport tells the story of an employee named Sean whose 2 supervisors just suddenly quit. And the reason was simple and absolutely devastating. As Sean put it, they were burnt out. The relentless pressure of this hive mind had just completely and totally exhausted them. This isn't just about being a little too busy, it's about a fundamental breakdown in how we approach work.
So why does this feel so bad? Why is the hive mind so incredibly draining? Well, it's not just a feeling you have. There is real science that explains the cognitive damage this workflow is doing to us every single day.
Okay, let's get into the science a bit. A researcher named Sophie Leroy found that every single time we switch our attention, like when you jump from a deep focused task to answer a quick email, our brain doesn't just make a clean break. A piece of our attention, a sort of mental residue, gets stuck on the task we just left. This clutters up our brain and literally reduces our mental capacity. In other words, our brains were never, ever designed to juggle a dozen things at once. The hyperactive hive mind forces us to do the one thing our brains are just terrible at.
And have you ever sent an email that you thought was perfectly clear only for the other person to completely misunderstand it? Oh yeah. This is a perfect example of what researchers call the egocentrism trap. They prove this with a kind of weird joke about an Uncle Caveman who, turns out, was actually a bear. Now, people who watched a funny video of the joke being told thought it was hilarious. But the people who just read the joke in a plain text email, they didn't really get it. Why? Because the senders had all this extra context. The tone, the timing, the laughter, all playing in their heads. We constantly, and I mean constantly, overestimate how well our tone comes across in text, and it leads to endless frustration and so many unnecessary follow-up emails. So, okay, we've diagnosed the problem, the hyperactive hive mind, but what on earth is the solution? Newport argues we don't need another little inbox hack or a new productivity app. We need a completely new philosophy of work, and he calls it the attention capital principle. The big idea here is to stop treating human attention like it's an infinite resource and start treating it like what it is, a highly valuable form of capital that we need to invest intelligently. To really wrap your head around this, let's take a quick trip back in time and talk about Henry Ford. Before the assembly line, cars were built using what was called the craft method. You'd have a bunch of skilled workers all swarming around one car, fitting parts one by one. It was super slow, super inefficient. The assembly line changed everything by introducing a clear, optimized process. It wasn't about making people work harder or faster. It was about completely changing the way the work was done.
And this is where it all clicks. This slide applies that exact same logic to our jobs today. The hyperactive hive mind, that's the modern version of the craft method. It's chaotic, it's reactive, and it shatters our attention into a million pieces. A process-oriented workflow, on the other hand, is like the assembly line for your brain. It's a deliberate, structured approach that protects our attention so we can actually produce high-value work instead of just reacting to digital noise all day long.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it? How do you escape the hive mind? Well, Newport gives us some fantastic, real-world examples of companies and people who have built systems to protect their attention and get way more done. Let's see how this actually works. Check this out. A media company called Optimize Enterprises. They have a team that's spread out all over the world, completely remote. And they release highly produced video content every single day. But here's the kicker. They do it almost entirely without unscheduled emails or Slack messages. It sounds completely impossible, but their secret is a crystal clear production process.
So here's how they do it. Everything, and I mean everything, revolves around a shared spreadsheet. An idea gets added. When the draft is done, the status just gets changed. The editor sees that and knows it's their turn. When they're finished, they change the status again, and the film crew knows what's ready to be shot. You see the pattern here? Nobody ever has to ask, hey, is that draft ready yet, or what's the status on that video? The system makes everything visible to everyone, which gets rid of the need for all that constant, annoying ad hoc communication.
Then there's the incredible story of Sam Carpenter. He bought a telephone answering service and was just drowning, working 80-hour weeks, constantly putting out fires. After 15 years of this, he was on the brink of ruin, and then he had a breakthrough. He realized his business wasn't a bunch of people problems, it was a machine made of broken systems. So he stopped fighting fires and started fixing the systems. And the result? His workload dropped to less than 2 hours a week, while his company became more profitable and was ranked #1 in the country. The lesson is so clear. Fix the process, not the people.
Now, creating systems for everything can feel pretty overwhelming, so Newport gives us a really simple rule of thumb to help decide if it's even worth the effort. He calls it the 30-by rule. If a task happens about 30 times a year, so roughly every week and a half, the effort it takes to automate or systematize that process is probably going to be worth it. This is a fantastic place to start looking at your own work.
These are some really big, counterintuitive ideas, right? So it's fair to ask, who is the person behind all this? Understanding Cal Newport's background is actually key to seeing why these concepts carry so much weight. So Cal Newport is a computer science professor at Georgetown University, and that academic rigor is what makes his work so powerful. See, he's not some anti-technology guy. He understands tech at a really deep level. He's also the best-selling author of other huge books like Deep Work, and his research is all about the intersection of digital technology and our work lives. That makes him uniquely qualified to diagnose the problems of the modern workplace and propose solutions that actually work.
Okay, let's boil this all down. First, the big one. We have to recognize the hyperactive hive mind for what it is, a bug, not a feature of modern work. Second, remember the science. Our brains are just plain bad at context switching. The answer isn't to try harder, it's to change the system. That means embracing a new philosophy. Treat your attention like capital. And you can do this practically by replacing inbox chaos with structured processes and clear systems. You don't have to change everything overnight. Just start by systemizing one recurring task. That's your first step out of the hive.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really important question to think about. After everything we've talked about today, take a hard look at your own workday. Is your inbox controlling you, or are you controlling it? The answer to that question could have huge implications for your productivity, your career, and frankly, your sanity.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more impactful book summaries from Summarypedia.